Welcome to the Real Estate Debate.
Oh, right, guys.
And today we're debating the hottest topics in real estate.
But I'm not going to stop yelling because then that'll mean I lost the fight.
And now, the host of the Real Estate Debate, Mr. Credit.
Let the games begin. Hey-o.
All right, welcome to the Real Estate Debate. Mr. Credit here, your host, our very first show in our brand new studio, and I've got three great friends of mine to join us on this journey through the real estate debate. Voltaire Lepi is here, two-time real estate debate champion. Voltaire, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Yeah, feeling a lot better now, and happy to be here. Beautiful studio.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate you being here for the inaugural show in the new studio. Of course, John Lieber, a multi-time real estate debate champion, is also here. How you doing, John?
Glad to be here. Doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, you just picked up some hardware today, my friend.
I did, yeah.
Long time
I feel
coming.
a little bit like Ron Burgundy on the set. This is awesome.
It's the orange shag carpet, man. I had to do it. I had to.
It looks great. I love it.
What else would you do? Had to be done. Thanks for being here, John. Really
Thank
appreciate it. Jason Cassidy is here as well today. This is your second time on the Real Estate Debate, looking for your first Golden Microphone Trophy. You came close last time. You were actually the closest that anyone has been on their first time on the show since the very first show.
1 point, Derek. I've been nightmares. 1 point. I lost by 1 point.
Lost by 1 point,
but it was fun.
Hey, listen, in this game, it's tough to win this show.
Yep.
It's very tough to win this show, so good luck to all of you today as we are going to jump right in to the rapid fire segment.
Let's go around the table for rapid fire.
I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly, yellow, no good keister off my property before I pump your guts full of lead.
Keep it short and keep it on point.
1, 2, 10.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
All right, today's rapid fire topic. Things you should never do while in escrow on either side of a real estate transaction. Voltaire, we're starting with you.
I got a big one, and it is don't lie from either side. So sellers, don't lie in your disclosures. Disclose everything that's wrong with the property, everything that you feel you need to disclose to the buyer. And buyers, don't lie to your lender, about your finances in your application, and at the same time, don't lie to your realtor about, what you feel about the property, because you might get stuck with a property you don't like, or, vice versa.
Don't lie. Good life advice, good real estate transaction advice. John Lieber.
Don't be passive about the contract dates. Most importantly, the contingency removal. I've had a couple experiences. One where an agent told me, I was on the listing side, and we got a day or two past when it was supposed to be removed, and she says, I never remove contingencies unless I get a notice to perform, which I'm like, really? So then I was joking with another agent saying, hey, let's just file these right away at the beginning of the transaction. On day one, they're not, you can't enforce them until day 17, but let's just send them notices to perform on everything right away. So you better remove them when they're due.
I like it. I like how you took that odd situation and turned it into a simple solution. Good stuff from John Lieber. Jason Cassidy.
If you're buying, you should not save 10% by opening that credit card at Macy's.
Yes.
No new credit products while you're in escrow.
Absolutely. Very good point there from Jason Cassidy. Voltaire.
As a buyer, never, ever co-sign to help a family member or friend, buy anything or lease an apartment, because there's some buyers out there that I ran across that think it's okay to co-sign because you're not actually the main person on there. It's going to affect you in your purchase.
Yep. Can't co-sign on anything. If you do that, then it's going to show up on your credit report and therefore have to be counted as a liability against you. Another very good point. John Lieber.
Is an agent, number one, don't be lazy. When you get disclosures and, importantly, the preliminary title report, actually look at it. I had one a while back where I caught a lien that was 30 years old that required a sidewalk to be installed in an area where there were no sidewalks. They wanted that fee to be passed on to the homeowners rather than the city paying for it. So we got a $10,000 reduction because of it, because that was going to be roughly the expense. But there are little things hidden there where, while they don't come up that often, they could cost your client thousands and thousands of dollars. So review everything that comes in from the seller side.
Review the paperwork. I mean, it's amazing that, that is a tip, right? but it really needs to be out there because a lot of times you hear these stories where people aren't reviewing the paperwork. And, of course, the clients assume that their representation is reviewing the paperwork. That is a good idea.
Well, as an agent, we're mostly protected because of all the disclosures that everyone has to sign. In the preliminary title report, there's a the form that says that they reviewed it, but most of the time the buyers don't really know what they're looking at. So, I mean, you really do need to look at that. That in particular, because it is so important. There can be so many things that can be so costly if they don't catch them.
Yep, huge stuff when you're going through a transaction like this. Jason Cassidy.
You should not, for both sides, go on a month-long cruise. And what I mean by that is you need to be accessible. You can't be away, can't disappear during the escrow. A lot of times during an escrow, you need to be available to sign a document or answer a question. You've got deadlines, like John said, and so you need to be accessible. So do not disappear. Do not go away for a month.
Be available when you're buying a home.
Yep.
People are going to need you.
Yep. Weird concept.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Today's rapid fire topic is things you should never do while in escrow on either side of a real estate transaction. We're back to Voltaire Leppi.
The next one just happened to me recently in a transaction. I was representing the seller, and the buyer, believe it or not, quit their job.
The buyer quit their job.
The buyer quit their job in the middle of the transaction, thinking it's okay because they already turned in all the paperwork. Well, before the close of escrow, the lender usually calls to verify, and that's when they found out that the buyer quit their job. That's how we found out. So if you have a job and you hate your boss, just stick with it. Okay, stick it out until the close of escrow.
Till the day after the close. I quit. I'm done.
Exactly.
I mean, I can't believe this. They have another job lined up?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they just got fed up.
They got
and-
a house. I got a house, man. It's all good. Don't need a job anymore.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to enjoy your time at your house
That's right.
if you're working all the time?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the things you hear. It's just crazy. Yeah. Definitely don't quit your job in escrow. Very good point. John Lieber.
Is the seller and the listing agent, make sure you get all of the disclosures, the key word being all of the disclosures, over to the other side within that contractual time frame, because if you don't and something's missing and then all of a sudden you send it later, even if it's on day 25, all of a sudden it opens the buyer up to 5 days to review that and potentially back out of the contract with no penalty, even if contingencies have been removed. So
wow.
Don't piecemeal it. Get that package together right away and get it over to them so they can review it and bring up any problems that might be in those disclosures.
Yep, another
right
very
away.
good point from John Lieber. Jason Cassidy.
Mine is you should not, from the buy side, you should not, if you're in escrow, don't waive your inspection contingency. So I guess I would say getting into escrow, but when you're in it, make sure you do your inspection. Don't forgo that. Even if it's an as-is sale, give yourself that inspection contingency so you can make sure that you are uncovering any potential problems that might come up and then decide to back out.
You need to know what you're getting into.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just plain and simple.
I see that. I think in the multiple offer situation environment we've been seeing a lot, we see buyers rush in to take away all contingencies, and it's not a good look. It's not good for you. Not good advice.
Not a good thing to do. Really unnecessary, right? And if it's the case that you felt like you needed to remove an inspection contingency, still do the inspection and get out for some other reason.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because, with condos, probably a little bit different. The inspection's not as important, right? But if you're buying a detached home, well, it's not as important. It's not as important, right? Because
the three realtors here will say you can't say that.
It's not as important, but you should still do it no matter what. You got to know what you're getting into. We're going to spend $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 here. You need to know what you're getting into. Okay, we're back to Voltaire.
As a buyer, don't delay the paperwork, getting the paperwork to your lender, what they request. So this is from like a lender point of view. Most of the time, delays happen in an escrow because the buyer is just kind of just taking their time, thinking it's okay to say, hey, I can't get you the paperwork until next Wednesday. That's my day off, right? Just make it a point, get the paperwork from the lender. If you have to go into your bank or wherever you got to go, get them what they need in a timely fashion.
Yeah, spend a lunch period doing that if you need to, but you got to get the paperwork in right away. Every second counts when you're in escrow. John Lieber.
There's so much negotiation up front, but I think the thing to remember on the buyer's agent side and the seller's agent side is the negotiation doesn't stop once the transaction started. You still have a request for repairs that needs to be negotiated, and that's where a lot of, I would say, you guys would probably agree, most deals fall apart after the fact because the two sides can't come to an agreement based on the repairs and various things that come up with the property. And unless there's something extremely significant, it's something that should be able to be resolved between two good agents and motivated buyer and seller. You know, everyone wants to come to the same end. Buyer wants to get a great house and seller wants to sell. So negotiation is very important.
Yeah, no question.
Once you're still moving along with the transaction.
Yeah, it doesn't stop, man. That's for sure. And you need to have that in mind with all the things that you're disclosing and all the things that are happening with the property. Jason Cassidy.
I mentioned earlier not to open any new credit cards. This one's going to somewhat piggyback, but if you do have the credit lines or credit cards open, don't make big purchases on them while you're in escrow. I see a lot of buyers, they're starting to plan out their new home, and they go finance the couch and the bed and all the bed sets and everything like that for more furniture or whatnot, and don't do that because you're going to mess with your debt-to-income ratio. It could potentially throw a wrench in your lending situation.
Yeah, sure could, because if it changes the payments on the credit report, then bada bing, bada boom, you all of a sudden have to redo your application.
Correct.
And that could take additional time, especially with the new disclosure rules that are coming up here in August. Okay, final round in our rapid fire segment. The rapid fire topic is things you should never do while in escrow on either side of a real estate transaction. Voltaire.
This has happened to me as well, is if you're a seller, don't start a lawsuit or become a defendant in a lawsuit, or if you have pending collections, just don't, push them away. Actually deal with them beforehand, even if you need to talk to your creditor or whoever's suing you and just say, oh yeah, you know what, actually, give me a week, just buy enough time for escrow to close, because what has happened is all of a sudden there's a lien or a list pendants against the property right before we're about to close escrow, and then we have to extend escrow to pay for that or to negotiate something.
Yeah, very, very true. Keep an eye on that. John Lieber.
This might be my number one thing now that I've looked at it again, is don't be a pain to deal with as an agent. If you're hostile, if you're confrontational, if you're really making the other side uncomfortable, and that's your style, it's just very difficult to deal with somebody like that. And we're all we want to represent our client to the best of our ability and make sure they're getting the best deal, but you also want to reach an agreement that's equitable for everybody. And so I think the more that we as agents can be good communicators, the better off really everyone is in the transaction.
Totally agree with that. Jason Cassidy.
As a seller side, when you're in escrow, there are going to be some repairs that come up. Make sure you're using licensed contractors to do the work on those repairs. Those can be a contentious issue after closing and whatnot. If that repair is not done correctly, you could be held liable for that if you didn't use a licensed contractor during your repair work. And I guess it kind of parlays in. I was going to say, don't add things that they didn't ask for necessarily. If they asked you to fix the bathroom sink, don't switch that from a single to a double basin sink. If they didn't ask for it, just do exactly what they asked for. It's not the time to renovate your house, but make sure you use a licensed contractor when you're doing those repairs.
Yes, and in fact, I would say make sure you do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Just
sure.
because you hear enough stories. It doesn't take too many for you to realize bad things can happen when you start hiring these unlicensed guys.
Correct.
Or picking workers up from Home Depot. It's not worth it. Spend the money. It's too important. All right, that's it for the rapid fire segment today. We have a tie all the way across the board, 5 points apiece for both Voltaire Leppi, John Lieber, and Jason Cassidy here as we're doing the real estate debate in the Smarter San Diego studios, commercial free for you right here. You can find out more at smartersandiego.com.